for Reading 560, the book that I chose to do my book study on is called Critical Literacy and Critical Teaching, Tools for Preparing Responsive Teachers by Cheryl Dozier, Peter Johnston, and Rebecca Rogers. This book was about an action research project that a group of teachers were able to do and kind of help them figure out how to create more student-led instruction, figuring out what the students liked, figuring out how the students were able, what they were able to do, but not by a bunch of assessments. It was by observation, and basically the students leading the teachers in how to find out what types of skills they were able to do and what type of what they knew and what they didn't know, and they built upon a lot of the things that they did know. It also helped them be able to look at data collection. They collected journals and wrote in their journals every single day of each of their students. Many of the teachers were uncomfortable in the studies when they began, but as it got later into the studies, they became more and more comfortable being able to know the students. And they said that the action research was, they were very intimidated at first, but the farther they got into the project, the better they liked it, and the more they were excited that they had done it. It also looked at the language that they used. Sometimes we use particular language that we don't realize that we use in the classroom. And again, it was all about, a lot of it was about student-led instruction and letting the students lead the teachers into what type of instruction to teach them. For this book study, the strategy that I would use would be the jigsaw strategy. The jigsaw strategy, which is I found off of Reading Rockets. Reading Rockets states, Jigsaw is a cooperative learning strategy that enables each student of a home group to specialize in one aspect of a topic. For example, one group studies habitats of rainforest animals, another group studies predators of rainforest animals. Students meet with members from other groups who are assigned the same aspect, and after mastering the material, return to the home group and teach the material to their group members. With this strategy, each student in the home group serves as a piece of the topic's puzzle, and when they work together as a whole, they can complete the jigsaw puzzle. We use this strategy a lot when we did book studies at my school as well. So what I would have would be, for when the people came into the book study, I would have them grab a card with a shape on it. Each index card would have either a circle, a square, a triangle, or a rectangle. And depending upon what shape that you got determined upon what group that you're in. We used this strategy in another book study that I did, and it worked out very well. If I had, say I had 16 people in the book study, there would be 4 groups made up of 4 people or less, depending again upon how many people, but I'm going to say for this one we would have 16, so we would have 4 groups of 4 people. We would then break up into groups as soon as we came in, because I would have them each week assigned a certain chapter to read, and then at the end, after we read the book, we would come together for a book study. And so once they came in, we would break up into each groups, and each group would be assigned 4 different tools, because within the book there is different tools to use in the classroom, and then the teachers also talk about how they use the tools and what tools you can use in the classroom. So each group would answer several different questions about their tools, and they will be given 30 minutes to discuss and answer questions before we reconvene together as a whole group about what we learned. For example, if we had 4 different groups, group 1 would be responsible for tools 1, 2, 3, and 4. Group 2 would be responsible for tools 5, 6, 7, and 8. Group 3 would be responsible for tools 9, 10, 11, and 12. And Group 4 would be responsible for tools 13, 14, 15, and 16. Within each group, you would have a recorder, a timekeeper, a task manager, and a facilitator. The recorder would be the one that records on what they're supposed to be talking about. They would be the one that was actually writing down everything. The timekeeper would make sure that they were back into the meeting with the whole group at exactly 30 minutes when it was time to come back. They would keep on track of time. The task manager would make sure that the group wasn't veering off of what they were supposed to be talking about, that they were staying focused so that they could get finished within 30 minutes so they could return to the group and report out. And then the facilitator would be the one to kind of lead the group, ask the questions, and make sure, again, kind of a little bit like the task manager, but this would be the one that would kind of lead the discussion within their group of 4 or more. The groups will also be, while within there, to lead their discussion, they will be filling out a graphic organizer for each tool, and each group has 4 tools. So the graphic organizer, which I got off from the West Virginia Department of Education, and this is called a concept map, and I edited it for myself. And up here in the concept map, you would fill out what tool you were doing. So for tool 1, you would name the tool. Then over here, you would have an example of the tool, or definition of the tool, what the tool meant, and what type of tool it was. And then for the middle, you would have the example to give an example of the tool, maybe something that one of the teachers in one of the chapters used an example of something they did with their student using this tool. And then the last part, it would be, why do you think this tool is important? Why do you think it would be important to use in the classroom? So then each group would fill out this. And so they would fill out one of these for each tool so that when they brought it back, they could present it to everyone, and also they could make copies of these to give to the teachers so that or the different teachers in the book study, so that they would have these to look back onto when they were teaching in their classroom. So after they go and they do that and they've had their 30 minutes to fill out those and discuss, then we would come back into the group, back into our whole group, and every group or home group would report out to everyone at the big discussion together, so that they're kind of teaching each other, but we would have already read the book, but they would just be reiterating what we had read and being able to write it down on paper so that we could kind of be a reminder for us. After everyone had time to present the material, some of the following questions that I would ask before we end our book study would be, what do you think the purpose of this book was? Why do you think we read the book? What do you think, basically, why did I have you read the book if I was the person leading the group discussion? Also, does anyone want to share something that they learned from the book? Something that really, while you were reading, something that really resonated with you and that was important to you? Another question would be, is there anything you would consider using in your classroom? What are some which one of the tools maybe that would you consider using in the classroom? What would you want to take back and use the next day in your classroom? Because a lot of times, if you don't take back and use what you've learned the next day, you will never use it. So they say to take a couple things away from a book study or a professional development that you do, and take it back and make sure to use it in the next week so that you remember to use it and you don't forget what you learned. And so those would be the discussion questions that we would end with, and then we would end our book study. And something that I think this book, the book Critical Literacy and Critical Teaching, is something that is definitely goes along with current readings and studies that are going on right now is because they're really pushing student-led instruction, more student-led instruction. And to be honest, when I first heard student-led instruction as a kindergarten teacher, it kind of worried me. I didn't know what that meant, having a bunch of kindergartners teaching, my classroom. I kind of thought that would be crazy. But after reading this book and after doing some professional development at school with student-led instruction, it has actually showed me that that's not at all really what it means. It just means for the teacher to still be there to facilitate it, but for the students to lead and to have those discussions that they need to have, and to be able to spark different interests. And sometimes instead of planning out everything, sometimes to let your students take control of what you're going to learn about and lead you to what they want to learn, but also using the skills and the things that they need to learn within what they are interested in learning. So I really liked this book. Actually, I didn't think that I would when I first began reading the book, but as the more I read throughout it, I really liked it because it taught me that I need to step back and look at my students more and look at their individual needs and listen to them more and observe them more and see what their interests are and make sure that I'm really taking an interest in things that they like, which will help me to plan my instruction, and it will help me to better understand maybe certain things that they don't, maybe skills that they're not mastering, and it helped me to understand why. This book also helped me realize that I need to have contact more with parents. Sometimes I shy away from that. It makes me a little nervous, but I understand that I need to have more contact with them, and I need to share more with them because it'll help me understand my students better if I understand what they're coming from. So I was very impressed with this book, and actually I would like to do a study, be able to be a part of a study like this one day. I think that was very helpful for these teachers, and many of them said that they learned so much and that the way that they taught would never be the same after they had experienced this action research. And so I think it would be very interesting to be able to participate in something like that.